What if you had just 3 weeks to start reducing the fat you can't see? Not the fat you can pinch with your fingers, but the fat stored deep inside your abdomen, around your internal organs. This is called visceral fat. And here's what makes it different. The soft fat underneath your skin is easy to notice when you look in the mirror. But visceral fat sits deeper inside the abdomen, so you may not realize how much you have simply by looking at your body. And if I had only 3 weeks to make a serious start toward reducing excess visceral fat, I would not starve myself. I wouldn't follow a crash diet, and I definitely wouldn't spend hours doing exhausting cardio every day. Instead, I would focus on 5 simple priorities that have a much stronger foundation in healthy weight management and physical activity. First, I would improve my food choices and create a moderate calorie deficit. Second, I would make protein and fiber a bigger part of my meals. Third, I would walk more and increase my daily movement. Fourth, I would use strength training to help protect muscle while losing body fat. And fifth, I would take sleep and recovery seriously. Now, let's be realistic. 3 weeks is not enough to promise that visceral fat will simply disappear. Your body doesn't work like a light switch. But 3 weeks is enough time to start building habits that can move your health and body composition in a better direction. And if you're over 45, I want you to remember something important. Your age does not mean you've lost your ability to improve your body composition. Research consistently supports the importance of physical activity, healthy eating, weight management, muscle preservation, and adequate sleep as we get older. At the same time, excess visceral fat is associated with poorer metabolic health, which is why reducing excess abdominal fat can be a worthwhile goal. But this video isn't about fear. It's about giving you a practical starting point. No miracle supplement. No secret fat-burning trick. No impossible diet. Just 5 priorities you can actually understand and apply. So, before we talk about what I would do during those 3 weeks, let's first understand why visceral fat can become such a problem in the first place. Before we talk about what to do, let's make one thing very clear. What exactly is visceral fat? There are 2 types of abdominal fat that are important to understand. The first is subcutaneous fat. That's the fat sitting directly underneath your skin. It's the type you can usually pinch with your fingers. The second is visceral fat. This fat is stored deeper inside your abdomen, around internal organs. Here's a simple way to picture the difference. Imagine your body is a suitcase. The fat underneath your skin is like luggage, sitting on the outside where you can easily see it. Visceral fat is more like luggage, packed deep inside the suitcase. You can't judge it perfectly just by looking at yourself in the mirror. And here's where things can become more complicated as we get older. Aging itself doesn't automatically cause visceral fat, but several changes that often happen with age can make it easier to accumulate. We may gradually lose muscle if we're not regularly challenging our muscles. We may move less during the day. We may spend more time sitting at a desk, in the car, or on the couch. Our overall body composition can change, and if we're consistently eating more calories than our body needs, even by a relatively small amount, that excess energy can contribute to fat storage over time. Then there are other factors. Poor sleep can make healthy eating and regular exercise more difficult. Chronic stress can influence eating behavior. And for some people, frequent alcohol consumption and highly processed foods can add a significant amount of calories without providing much fullness. Now here's the part many people don't realize. You can look relatively normal on the outside and still carry excess abdominal fat. That's one reason waist circumference can sometimes be a useful measurement when you're monitoring changes in abdominal fat distribution. But remember, waist circumference isn't a direct measurement of visceral fat. It's simply one useful piece of information. Imagine a 60-year-old man who hasn't changed his diet dramatically. He still eats what he considers normal meals, but he now spends 8 or 9 hours sitting each day. He drives instead of walking. He watches television in the evening. And over several years, his waist gradually becomes larger. Maybe the scale doesn't look alarming to him, but he's noticing something else. He's getting tired more easily. Stairs feel harder. He doesn't walk as much. And activities that used to feel effortless now require more energy. This is why the goal shouldn't be to become afraid of a number on your waist. The goal is to recognize that excess visceral fat is associated with poorer cardiometabolic health, and that gives us a reason to take action. Not panic, not fear, action. And unfortunately, many people respond in exactly the wrong way. They suddenly eat almost nothing. They start exercising excessively. They become exhausted and hungry. They can't maintain the routine. And eventually, they return to their old habits. That's not the strategy I want you to follow. Because the goal isn't simply to lose weight as quickly as possible. The goal is to reduce excess body fat while protecting your strength, muscle, energy, and ability to stay active. So if I had only 3 weeks to make a serious start, here's exactly where I'd put my attention. Now let's get to the part that matters most. If I had just 3 weeks to make a serious start toward reducing excess visceral fat, I wouldn't try to completely transform my body overnight. I would focus on 5 priorities. And the first one is probably the least exciting, but it's absolutely fundamental. Step 1. Create a sustainable calorie deficit. To reduce body fat, your body generally needs to use more energy than it receives from food over time. That's what we mean by a calorie deficit. But here's the important part. The deficit does not need to be extreme. In fact, trying to eat as little as possible can make the process much harder to maintain. Instead, I would build most of my meals around 5 things: lean protein, plenty of vegetables, high fiber foods, reasonable portions of whole food carbohydrates, and sensible amounts of healthy fats. Think about a typical evening. You come home tired. You have a large dinner. Maybe there's a sugary drink, then dessert. And later, while watching television, you grab some chips or cookies. None of these foods has to be completely forbidden, but when they're all happening together, the calories can add up very quickly. Now imagine a different evening. You have a serving of grilled chicken or fish, a large portion of vegetables, a reasonable serving of beans, potatoes, oats, or another high-fiber carbohydrate, and water or another low-calorie drink. You're still eating a satisfying meal. You're simply making it easier for your overall calorie intake to support your goal. And that's the mindset I want you to remember. You don't have to starve yourself to make progress. You need a strategy you can repeat. Step 2. Make protein and fiber the foundation. The second thing I would focus on is what actually makes up those meals. And 2 of the most useful categories are protein and fiber. Protein is especially important when you're trying to lose body fat because it helps support muscle maintenance and repair. And preserving muscle becomes increasingly important as we get older. Because if you lose weight but also lose a significant amount of muscle, you haven't necessarily achieved the outcome you wanted. You want to become leaner while maintaining as much useful muscle and strength as possible. Good protein choices can include eggs, Greek yogurt, fish, chicken, lean meat, beans, lentils, tofu, and cottage cheese. But protein isn't the whole story. Fiber-rich foods can also help make meals more filling and support healthy digestion. Think vegetables, beans, lentils, berries, oats, and whole grains. And here's a simple rule you can use without obsessively counting every gram. At each major meal, ask yourself, where is my protein? And then, where are my vegetables or high-fiber foods? That's it. Let's take breakfast as an example. A breakfast consisting mostly of toast and a sugary coffee may leave you hungry again relatively quickly. Instead, you could have eggs with vegetables and some berries, or Greek yogurt with berries and oats. The goal isn't to make your food boring. It's to make your meals work harder for you. Step 3. Walk every day. Now let's talk about something incredibly simple. Walking. You don't need to become a marathon runner. You don't need a complicated exercise machine. And you don't need to spend 2 hours in the gym. Walking increases daily energy expenditure, helps break up long periods of sitting, and supports cardiovascular fitness and mobility. For many adults, it's also one of the easiest forms of movement to build into everyday life. And if you're starting from a very inactive lifestyle, don't worry about hitting some magical step number. There isn't one number that everyone needs. Instead, think in terms of progression. During the first week, start with manageable walks. Your goal is simply to become more consistent. During the second week, if you're tolerating the activity well, Gradually increase either the duration or frequency. And during the third week, maintain that routine and, if appropriate for you, add a little more movement. One particularly practical habit is taking a short walk after a meal. Even 10 or 15 minutes can be easier to fit into your day than one long workout. And post-meal movement may also help support healthier blood glucose levels. Imagine someone who normally spends most of the day sitting. Instead of trying to suddenly become extremely active, they could take a short walk after lunch, another after dinner, stand up regularly during the workday, walk while talking on the phone, and do a little more household activity. Those small pieces of movement can add up. So remember this: you don't need to become a fitness fanatic. You need to stop being completely sedentary. Step 4. Strength train to protect your muscle. This is one of the steps I would not skip. Because when you're trying to lose body fat, you don't want your body to simply become smaller. You want to protect your ability to stay strong and functional. Resistance exercise gives your muscles a reason to stay strong. And that matters for far more than appearance. It can help support the things you actually care about in everyday life. Getting out of a chair, carrying groceries, climbing stairs, getting up from the floor, traveling, and playing with your grandchildren. You don't need to become a bodybuilder. You can start with simple exercises: chair sit-to-stands, wall push-ups, resistance band rows, step-ups, or light dumbbell exercises. The key is controlled movement and gradual progression. And don't assume that harder is always better. Your muscles need recovery too. The goal isn't to destroy yourself with a workout every day. The goal is to consistently give your body a useful reason to maintain strength. And this is an important message for anyone worried about losing weight. Losing fat doesn't have to mean becoming weaker. In fact, preserving strength should be part of the goal. Step 5. Fix your sleep before chasing another fat loss hack. And finally, we come to something that many people overlook: sleep. If you're constantly exhausted, controlling hunger and sticking to healthy habits can become much harder. Poor sleep can make cravings more difficult to manage. It can make exercise feel harder, and it can make it more difficult to stay consistent with healthy eating. This doesn't mean one bad night of sleep suddenly creates visceral fat. It doesn't. We're talking about patterns over time. So for the next 3 weeks, I would make sleep part of the plan. Try to keep your sleep and wake times relatively consistent. Reduce stimulating screen use before bed. Be careful with caffeine later in the day. Create a relaxing nighttime routine. And make your bedroom comfortable, dark, and quiet if possible. You can also pay attention to stress, because sometimes the problem isn't that you don't know what to eat. The problem is that you're exhausted, stressed, and looking for something comforting at the end of a difficult day. That's where simple strategies can help. Take a walk, spend some time outdoors, practice slow breathing, relax with a book, talk to someone you care about. Give your mind a chance to slow down. Because here's something I want you to remember: recovery isn't laziness. Recovery is part of the plan. So if I had only 3 weeks, these are the 5 areas I would prioritize. Not a miracle supplement. Not a starvation diet. Not hours of punishment-style cardio. Just better food choices. Enough protein and fiber. More daily movement. Strength training. And better recovery. And now let's talk about a few simple tips that can make these 5 strategies much easier to stick with. Before we finish, I want to give you 5 simple tips that can make the entire 3-week plan easier to follow. Because knowing what to do is one thing. Actually doing it consistently is another. Tip 1. Measure your waist, not just your weight. If you're trying to improve your body composition, don't become obsessed with the number on the scale. Your body weight can change from day to day because of water, food, digestion, and other factors. That's why your waist measurement can be another useful way to monitor progress over time. If you choose to measure your waist, try to do it under similar conditions each time. For example, measure at approximately the same time of day and in the same general location around your waist. And remember, waist circumference does not directly measure visceral fat. It's simply another piece of information that can help you monitor changes in abdominal size. Tip 2. Look at your liquid calories. Here's an easy place to look if you're trying to reduce unnecessary calories. your drinks: sugary sodas, sweetened coffee drinks, large, high-calorie beverages, and for some people, alcohol. These calories can be surprisingly easy to consume because drinking them often doesn't make you feel as full as eating the same calories from solid food. So make water your default when possible. Choose unsweetened beverages when you enjoy them. And if you regularly drink high-calorie beverages, reducing them can be a simple change without completely redesigning your diet. Tip 3. Stop chasing the perfect diet. This one is extremely important. One unhealthy meal doesn't destroy your progress, and one healthy meal doesn't transform your body overnight. What matters is what you repeatedly do over the next several weeks and months. So if you have a meal that doesn't fit your plan, don't tell yourself, "I've already messed up, so I might as well give up." That's how one meal becomes an entire weekend. Instead, simply return to your normal routine at the next meal. Because we're not trying to build a diet you can survive for 3 weeks. We're building habits you can actually live with. Tip 4. Make your environment work for you. Don't rely entirely on willpower. Make healthy choices easier. Keep protein-rich foods available. Prepare vegetables ahead of time. Keep healthier snacks within easy reach. And if certain foods are extremely difficult for you to eat in moderation, don't keep large quantities sitting directly in front of you. The same principle works with exercise. Put your walking shoes somewhere you can see them. Schedule your walks. Set reminders to stand up during long periods of sitting. The goal is to make the healthy choice the convenient choice. Tip 5. Don't ignore medical factors. Finally, remember that body weight and abdominal fat aren't controlled by willpower alone. Medications can influence weight. Certain medical conditions can affect body composition. Hormonal changes may play a role. Sleep disorders can interfere with energy, appetite, and activity. And mobility limitations can make exercise more difficult. So if you're struggling despite making consistent lifestyle changes, or if you have a medical condition or take medications that may affect your weight, it's worth discussing your situation with a qualified healthcare professional. There may be factors that need individual attention. And here's the reality check I really want you to remember. 3 weeks can be a starting point. It is not a guaranteed transformation. Don't starve yourself. Don't use dehydration to make the scale temporarily drop. And don't rely on unregulated, fat-burning supplements promising to melt abdominal fat. There is no food, drink, exercise, or supplement that selectively melts visceral fat overnight. Your body doesn't work that way. Real progress comes from repeatedly doing the fundamentals. And if you can spend the next 3 weeks building those fundamentals, you'll have accomplished something much more valuable than chasing a quick result. You'll have started building a routine that can continue working for you long after those 21 days are over. So let's bring everything together. If I had 3 weeks to make a serious start toward reducing excess visceral fat, these are the 5 priorities I would focus on. Number 1. Create a sustainable calorie deficit. Not starvation, not extreme restriction, just consistently eating in a way that supports gradual fat loss. Number 2. Prioritize protein and fiber. Build meals around foods that support fullness, good nutrition, and muscle maintenance. Number 3. Walk and move every day. You don't need to become an athlete. You simply need to reduce the amount of time you spend completely sedentary and gradually increase your daily movement. Number 4. Strength train. Give your muscles a reason to stay strong while you're working on reducing excess body fat. And number 5. Protect your sleep and recovery, because healthy habits become much harder to maintain when you're constantly exhausted. Now, I want you to rethink what those 3 weeks actually mean. Don't tell yourself, "In 21 days, my visceral fat will be gone." That's not realistic. Instead, tell yourself, "In 21 days, I can build habits that move my body and health in the right direction." That's a much more powerful goal. Because imagine where those habits could eventually take you. A smaller waist over time, better stamina, easier movement, more strength, more confidence, more energy to spend time with your family, and greater independence as you get older. That's what we're really working toward. Not simply becoming lighter, but becoming stronger, healthier, and more capable. And if you're over 45, Don't make the mistake of thinking your age has already decided what your body can do. Your body can still respond to better habits at many different stages of life. You don't need a perfect 3 weeks. You need 3 weeks of consistent action. And that's the philosophy we want to keep here. No miracle cures. No extreme promises. No pretending that one food or supplement can solve everything. Just realistic, evidence-informed strategies that you can actually use. Now, I want you to make this personal. If you had the next 21 days to improve your health, which one of these 5 would you start with? Better food? More walking? Strength training? More protein and fiber? Or better sleep? Tell me in the comments. And if you found this video useful, give it a like and share it with someone who's also trying to improve their health after 45. And subscribe for more practical, evidence-informed videos about healthy aging, nutrition, mobility, fitness, and body composition. You don't need to change everything overnight. Start today, stay consistent for the next 3 weeks, and let your habits, not a miracle claim, do the work.